Matthew, do you have an Alexa device? You ever used Alexa?
We have an Alexa in our family home. I talk to her to put on some soft guitar instrumental music in the morning and some punk rock in the evening.
I noticed you're saying her, not actually Alexa, so you don't have to have her saying she doesn't understand what you're saying.
There are only two co-hosts of this podcast, so we don't need Alexa hopping in right now.
So I've actually only ever used Alexa a couple times, and it was from a professional setting. I won't mention the company I was working for, but we definitely had someone in a hackathon once create an interface where you could talk to Alexa instead of using the UI of our platform and say, hey, what's the best performing XYZ thing going on? It would basically create a table and then read you the results out loud. In reality, all it was doing was that we had built some prompts for it to we ask certain things and it responds in a certain way. It was like the early days of checking out how you could use Alexa. And all we had done is we had two very specific things that you could say. And Alexa would say specific things back. But I got to tell you, man, it worked. People really liked the feature, but we never actually deployed it for a single customer.
I think you could have got some VC funding for that and been the first people to get to agentic commerce. But Jack, what about Alexa for SEs?
I feel like we're almost there, right? We're there with actual agents being able to do things like that. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see what, especially very knowledgeable people like our guest today who understand this intersection of things like voice and then LLMs and interactivity as opposed to just ChatGPT, text-based outputs. I think we're on the precipice of actually having something very useful for solutions orgs.
Welcome to the Presales Podcast, everyone. I'm Matthew James, one of your co-hosts, and with
Jack Cochran, also a general manager and co-host of the show. Thank you, Matthew. Today, we got a chance to sit down with Kintan Brahmbhatt, who is co-founder and CEO of Olto. And if you're not familiar with Olto, you definitely should. We talk a little bit about Olto when we're first talking to Kintan, but Olto is a single platform of agents for pretty much anything within your demo or your solutions experience. And I brought up Alexa because Kintan actually spent over a dozen years at Amazon where he did a lot with Alexa. He helped to scale Amazon Music, their podcasting business, Prime Video stuff, IMDb, etc. He built a lot of the music experience behind Alexa as well. So he's very familiar with agentic interactions and that. And he probably would have done a better job of this little thing that we created versus what I did for my demo. But I was really excited to sit down with him and actually talk about where the future of solutions is going, given his experience of the thing that's currently changing the solutions org.
Yeah. And I, of course, took away a lot of practical things. You've heard it in Kintan's background. The man knows a thing or two about how to get agents to work for you.
Absolutely fantastic. I don't really want to stand too much in the way of this fantastic episode. Matthew, do you have anything else you want to say before we hop in?
Let's hop in right after the break.
Here's a quick word from today's sponsor, Olto. And honestly, this is one that I wish existed when I was an SC. Now, if your team is still juggling separate tools for live demos and product videos and interactive tours and onboarding guides, you already know the drill. Disconnected workflows, stale demo environments, and wasted cycles, that's just what you signed up for. Olto fixes that. It brings it all together on a single platform of product-trained agents. And Alto's got some new autonomous agents as well, which can handle discovery, they can help qualify leads, navigate your product, and deliver live personalized demos to every prospect at scale. Some of the best pre-sales teams out there are already using it. And so you can go check it out for yourself at alto.com/PSC, and you'll get 3 months for free. That's olto.com/PSC. Kintan, welcome to the Pre-Sales Podcast. I'm excited to have you on here. I feel like we've been trying to get you on this show for such a long time. So welcome.
Thank you so much. And I'm super excited, super thrilled. And I'm so glad that all the conversations, either we've had Jack one-on-one or Matthew we've had in one of the salons, we are able to kind of have it on this forum. So thank you again for having me and can't wait.
Absolutely. And I think it's actually pretty good that we've waited a while. I know you've got some really great experience, especially in the era of AI. And I think AI is more interesting now than it was a year ago. Last year, it was more new, but now it's more interesting. And the stuff that we're talking about now is less about tools you use and more of how you can actually utilize it in a way that it actually changes and impacts your work, which is what I'm excited to dive into today. And I don't know if last year we would have been having quite the same conversation.
Yes, the framing has evolved significantly. Yes. I also think that a lot of the conversation you hear, even on LinkedIn and Twitter and blogs, is when it comes to AI in GTM, it's all about, hey, AI can do a lot more work faster. I think the more interesting part of the story is that the buyer has also changed and the products have changed. The role of the SE has changed. And guess what? Almost nobody's metrics or comp plans or like the entire like tooling has evolved, has kept up with the pace of change on the other metrics. And there are some teams, forward-looking teams, who are ahead of the curve on that. But I think that's what's making this phase of our journey in AI quite fascinating, just as an industry and as a profession.
Before we get started, obviously, in our intro, we talked about you're CEO and co-founder of Olto. But for those who might not know, quick take, not super long, but what is Olto? And I don't mean the marketing version. Obviously, buyers have changed. Everyone's going to go to your website and get the blurb there. But from you, from the CEO, from the co-founder, if you had to explain it to a skeptic, what is Olto and why would someone care?
Thanks for asking that. I'll answer it in two parts. One is what it is, and second is, which is probably more interesting, is how it got started. Think of Olto as a single platform with a bunch of product-trained AI agents that power every revenue-critical product experience. What I mean by revenue-critical experiences is that like more and more, I think even in sales-led motion, product is going to play an outsized role in modern GTM. So whether it's top end of the funnel at the awareness stage, the video or a product tour or interactive demo, to the actual mid-funnel live demonstration delivered by the SEs, to leave behinds that are sent between, as connective tissues between live demos. And finally, the handoff and the onboarding guide that converts a new user into a customer or a churn risk. We've built a single platform that's powered by a bunch of agents that are interconnected, that share intelligence, that are powered by the same underlying models to kind of offer all of them. So the story that the consumer gets, that the buyer gets, is very cohesive. The administration experience that the SEs and rest of the GTM teams get is very cohesive. And we are in the business of sense making as sellers, as GTM professionals, and specifically as SEs. So we want to make sure that reduce friction in sense making. So one line answer is it's a single platform with product trained agents that power all revenue critical experiences. Now, where all this started, Jack, as you know, I've spent over a dozen years at Amazon. Most of them were spent in really personalized consumer experiences. Worked for about 10 years on voice agents on Alexa, started working on voice agents in 2012, where specifically the music experiences, and done, all kinds of contextual experiences for consuming content, whether it's the X-ray experience that shows up on Prime Video or personalized music and podcast recommendations to movie recommendations and so on. The same consumers, the same buyers, and it's not just Amazon. Amazon is where I had first-hand experience, but no, Netflix also has really good recommendations. So does Spotify, and so do many other products. The same consumer would typically experience a contextually relevant experience. And when I went to, when we studied the B2B buying experiences, the buyers often got a demo that was designed for a fictitious organization's Acme, or their users were Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck or some Disney characters or some F1 race drivers, or they were designed for some other company. They were just getting repurposed. And I felt that, hey, when the stakes are so high, a good demo or a great demo really helps tell the story, helps reduce friction in the buyer's mind that whether or not this product will solve their problem, whether this makes sense for them or not. The stakes are so high. Why aren't folks investing so much in this? And there are still companies that do a lot of investment, but the time it takes to tailor the demos, to tailor the conversations, to make sure each conversation is contextually relevant for every buyer is just very expensive. So it's kind of cost prohibitive for them to do it for a lot of folks. Like in Amazon, for instance, you only get a personalized experience if your annual spend on Amazon is over $10,000. Whether you're buying a $1 item or a $100 item, you get the same personalized experience. Same for in any of these services. But that's not the case in sales. In so many teams, so many very successful companies, teams, I've seen that there is an unspoken or unwritten rule that SE capacity should only be allocated to deals above a certain ACV volume or deals at a certain stage. There is a hurdle rate that the deal has to qualify that buyer. So depending on how big of a buyer you are, you get a different experience of the product, different experience of the process and such. And in this day and age, I don't think that's warranted. So some of those conversations, those observations led us to kind of get into it. And just personally, my mind, JB and I, my co-founder JB and I, our minds are wired to kind of focus on tailored contextually relevant experiences across so many mediums. And we've always wanted to build a tailored layer for applications. And it was just not feasible until we started applying LLMs to HTML and to web applications. Now, we applied it to videos and music and audio, but it was just the tech wasn't there until LLMs were more accessible and affordable to do that for applications.
I have to ask, how have you seen inside my old demo environments? I had it. I had Sebastian Vettel. I had Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse. And at one point in my career, I was selling a piece of data software. And you kind of had a couple of different buyer personas. Some of them would want to see a smaller kind of business running transactions, maybe in the 4 to 5 figures on a daily basis. And then you had this other set of businesses we would sell to where their customers were more in the 6 to 7 figures. And configuring the demo data to go back and forth, it was quite the task. So that kind of thing, to start where you're going from, that makes a lot of time. And eventually we got to a point as well where it's, can we segment out these customers? And we did get to that kind of different kind of experience for the different kinds of buyers. It sounds like this was something you thought about as well. So you're trying to automate for whether you want to justify SE time. How have you seen these autonomous agents earn their keep in those maybe not qualified yet deals?
Yeah, there are 3 spots, and I'll keep them narrow and specific. So autonomous agents are essentially agents that deliver the demos. Now, they'll ask questions, qualify the customer, do some discovery, and then show the product, navigate the product while answering the questions. So the first slot where they've earned their keep is the segment of demos, the cohort of demos that would have never gotten delivered by a human. In many companies, as we discussed, there's an unspoken rule where the SE bandwidth is not allocated to deals below a certain ACV. So for those, the option is either there's a churn risk, or the person just sees, or the buyer just sees a generic video or a product tour. For those, we're saying, hey, what if we can actually show a proof of value by showing an actual live product demonstration that's given by an autonomous agent? So that's the first one. And that's working out well because the next best alternative for those use cases, for those buyers, was to not get a tailored demo or a proper demo. The second is after hours or off limits or different languages. So these are the cases where the company or the team does not have bandwidth for an SE or sometimes an AE or SDR to give a demo at 11 p.m. because the buyer is in a different time zone or in a different language where, you don't have a native speaker in that language. So a prospect goes to your website from Singapore at, midnight your time. There is nobody available to give the actual demo. The choice for the prospect is to book some time and wait for a couple of days or get a demo right there. The prospect gets a deeper understanding of the product, maybe gets most of their questions answered. And then when they get to the next stage, the autonomous agent would actually obviously book a demo with the SE or with the AE. It's more qualified conversation. The discovery is done. So the next conversation is well informed. So that's the second where it's out of bounds is what we call it, where either the language is a barrier or the time zone is a barrier or so on. And the third one is more interesting, which is these agents are serving as connective tissue between actual live human conversations. So today, between 2 human conversations where SE gave a demo or AE had a conversation, typically the leave behinds are static videos or product walkthroughs and tours. Instead, we have started seeing some customers or some teams sending agents, and those agents are particularly trained around the questions or around the topics that have sufficient capacity to matter for that deal or for that persona. That's been quite interesting. And it's just kind of extending the current ways of doing it. We also offer videos and product tours and such, but customers are choosing to actually send an agent as a connective tissue because guess what? The quality of both the inputs and the outputs are quite strong because after that conversation with an autonomous agent, you get a transcript or a report of that can feed in as a prompt for the live demo, for the next live call. So it's a connecting tissue in a true sense, where it informs the next conversation in a very meaningful manner, not just who saw what or such.
I love thinking about that as connective tissue, like you're saying. It really does change the way that we interact with our customers. And actually, this almost very question was something that, at the time of the recording, this will have been a bit ago, but this morning we recorded a webinar. We had a webinar that Matthew actually was our host on. And I remember Matthew asking a question, do you do any leave behinds? And one of our panelists said, a lot of times the leave behind is just, we're going to send you the recording of the previous demo. But you think about what you're missing, right? You're missing the ability to something tailored, something that is an output of your conversation, something that can then feed in. Like, we're leaving a lot on the table if we're only thinking about our interactions with our customers as this discrete moments that we're on camera or on a phone call or in the room with them.
I agree 100%. It's only going to get better and more personal, more contextual. For every discrete moment, there'll be a contextual experience available for the customer, for the buyer.
Those are some good examples. I'm wondering if you have any bad examples, or maybe this is where maybe you shouldn't be thinking, because I think it's the hard part, right? Time of thinking about demo agents, thinking about where you can plug things in. What are the types of things you should be avoiding? Like, what's going to not work out well, at least at this point?
100%. And I've had my own share of experiences, I should say, interesting experiences, both on the receiving end of some interesting agents and also more importantly,
I think we've all been on the bad end of this was not a good spot to put one in, for sure.
Exactly. But also it's an exercise in humility. I've been building voice agents in particular for almost 15 years now. I think these AI agents fail in weird ways. And when I say weird ways, they tend to fail in unexpected ways, where, on the surface, you'll see that, the information provided was very accurate. It's factual because it's all mathematically calculated based on probabilities. But when we look at the job to be done, there's a failure point. And let me just take a step back. When we were designing early days of building the music experience for Alexa, I was seeing there was one particular use case where customers were asking for, hey, Alexa, play the latest single by Adele. And every time, this was many years ago, so it'll start singing, Adele is that popular singer Adele, I'll start singing Hello by Adele. After some time, say people like customers would just start skipping it because they didn't want to listen to Hello. Now, factually, Hello was the most popular song with the most recent release date. But what the customers wanted to hear was the song they heard at Starbucks because that was being played on the radio. And then, like most popular artists, they'll kind of keep on rotating the songs, in the radio circuit every 3 months or so. So the song customers wanted was, Send My Love to Your New Lover, one of those songs, or Water Under the Bridge. And could only figure it out by kind of studying 1 or 2 layers deeper as to why were customers skipping that song right away. And so we had to kind of re-index the system or an entity resolution based on, hey, what is the customer's actual intent? Yes, both those songs had the same release date, but guess what? When a customer is kind of asking for the latest single with those terms, technically they mean the one that they heard on the radio or so on. And then we had to kind of fix it. So the same applies in many ways. So that's what I meant by failure points are weird because technically the answer was right. When we look at it from a business like B2B selling standpoint, it really boils down to trust and expectation management. So areas where I've seen the agents fail in real time is a buyer is expecting a human and they get a bot. It's really as simple as that. So it's all about setting the right expectations with the customer. Don't say that, hey, you don't let the buyer book a calendar invite with an agent, for instance, because when they're booking a calendar invite, they say book a meeting and then they pick a time. They expect a human on the other side. I've seen some folks do that. They book a time and then there's an agent on the other hand. So it's really mismatched expectations. So don't offer an agent where the customer is expecting a human. That's one. The deal dies. Now your AI program loses its credibility and things like those. So that's one. The second is the importance of the moment, where to put the agent. I'll just make up this example, but hey, you are late in the cycle and you are talking with the InfoSec stage, you're talking with the security review and such. Don't send an agent to kind of give an overview of the product to the security team. Yeah, it's just that, you lose credibility because the buyer wanted to feel that they are reading the room. They want to feel that they'll be taken care of by a team, etc. types of the deal. So when is the agent used? One is setting expectations. 2 is when is the agent used? And the third is more about the tolerance threshold. Going a little technical, but the tolerance threshold is quite important because no matter how good the agents are, the LLMs are, whether it's from Anthropic or OpenAI or some of the more successful agent companies, there are error rates, there is hallucination. So you want to keep these agents in a format where it's easily recoverable. So you don't want to send the agents down a one-way rabbit hole where it goes wrong and it's very hard to recover them. Typically, we talk to our customers and tell them they had to use these agents in areas where it's easy to recover it. And you don't want to be in a situation where, the agent keeps on hallucinating one after the other. A buyer asks some sharp question, the bot bluffs, and then the buyer loses credibility right there. Instead, you say, hey, you know what? I'm not so sure. The confidence level with which the answer is given. The agent should say, I'm not so sure. That's perhaps a conversation for my team. Let me just connect you with the team. So being very self-aware on the confidence level is very important.
So it feels like you're training AI agents in that case to be like a new SE who you have to tell those exact same instructions. Don't make it up if you don't know. Say, I'll have to get back to you. Someone from my team can answer those questions.
Exactly. It's less about more AI at that point. It's about framing the moment honestly and truthfully. And say it's an AI-led product walkthrough. I don't know the answer to this question. And let me get back or let me connect you to the team. And because the AI fails strangely, the high order bit or the discipline is not just building the agent that can answer any question. It's more about knowing where to put it, when to insert it in your workflow.
I can think of sales teams where we've had tools like this, and those aren't the questions that have been asked. Especially if you're thinking, hey, this is something we're going to be spending a lot of time building. Maybe it's you're investing in something, maybe you're investing in product. The difficulty will be you're going to feel pressure to put it everywhere. Right. And so I think that's very important framing, because you're absolutely right. It can be very helpful when putting it in the right places. And as we talked about, becoming that connective tissue between calls, adding more experiences. But you have to make sure you're not overextending because you have this new shiny toy that you want to deploy everywhere. And I could see myself and really anyone here being very apt to just want to push too hard.
With automation, it sounds like we're automating deal prep, demo prep itself, even down to the front ends. We're automating our leave behinds. What does the future of SE time actually look like? Hour by hour even. And who do you think is doing this really well already?
I'd use the framing of abundance. I'm glad you asked this. So it's less about scarcity, more about abundance. And when we look at all the SE metrics, and Matthew, we've also chatted about it in one of the salons, most of the metrics are around activities. What does the SE do? What are the SEs measured on? I think it's going to shift the focus from activities to outcomes in a more pronounced manner than others. But to answer your question specifically, let me just paint the picture. I'll also use some analogy. Like, for instance, now our engineers, all the coding I do, etc. Like when I wake up, there were agents doing some jobs, doing some code reviews, like PRs to review, etc. When they start their day, there is a set of tasks that the agents did overnight, and then they have to review or approve or help. My wish for SEs is the same. There are a few companies that do that already, but let's say you start your day at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or so on. Your product-trained AI agents have already created not just the script, but also the actual demos for you have 3 or 4 calls today. You have to kind of review, approve a few of those. Maybe there is one question for you that, hey, there's this demo where this area, this specific text seems sensitive. Should I anonymize it or not? If you tell me, I'll anonymize it. So the whole role of SE is going to be about judgment, and the whole role of AI is going to be about coverage. And the dance of judgment and coverage will underscore the day in life. So let's say 8 to 9 a.m., you kind of do all these remaining tasks. 9 a.m., you go in an actual call with your AE on a very important deal coming up. And because you're not rushing to kind of cobble together or scramble together the screens for the call at 10 a.m., you're actually fully present in that call with the AE. You kind of figure out that, hey, there's this specific use case that the prospect wants to hear from an integration perspective. And then as an SE, you'd be able to kind of use your product trained agents to kind of do it and get them ready, not needing the engineering team, but get them ready for the call tomorrow. So you do that. 10 a.m., you have an actual call, the mid-market healthcare company. Now you have a demo ready. You are fully present in that call. You focus your time, not worrying about, hey, there are like 2 screens. Am I going to be able to switch, use some keyboard shortcut to switch from one Chrome window to another? Because everything's going to just work. So you focus time on actual discovery, understanding what the customer really wants. The demo is successful. Then you have a meeting with the marketing team. They're not as a favor because that person is your buddy or so on. But hey, because guess what? Now you have the bandwidth and the context to actually influence what this new marketing campaign, what role the product can play, the product story can play in the new marketing campaign, or fine-tuning one of the marketing agents, that agent that creates a video or agent that creates the autonomous agent. Sit down with the product marketing or the demand gen teammate and kind of do it. Not as I'm going to do this marketing stuff in my extra time. Not like that, but actually as an influencer, Then you do a lunch and a couple of other actual customer calls where you're very fully present. Then you go to this product roadmap review as a SE. And you can go to that because guess what? Now, oftentimes SEs get invited to it, but they are either, on the call with the camera off and on the side, they're doing some work. Instead here, they're actually coming with a list of insights, adding value because they are closer to the customer and closer to the code. So they can influence the long-term strategic decisions for the company, for the product team. And the product team listens as well because these are well-informed insights. And then one more customer call. And after that, they have a mentorship meeting with a new SE on the team, a junior SE on a complex deal prep that they can kind of list insights from the last few demos of a similar kind of prospect and train them. And they can do all these things, high leverage, high value things because their capacity has increased. There's abundance of work. It's the abundance of things that they can work upon, abundance of the stages of the buying cycle or the sales funnel or the customer's life cycle that they can influence, not just the mid funnel, but from the awareness stage all the way to mid funnel, post sales, as well as, how to expand that customer, how to convert that new user into a activated fan of the customer and a renewed user and so on. So my vision and hope for the SE profession is that by leveraging AI in a thoughtfully applied manner, they can actually contribute much more to different stages of the product cycle and be contributing member of the entire team.
I love that full picture. And I loved how you set it up with the word abundance because it's so true. In the parts of even my job where I've implemented some good, agents, and I've got some things that I've built myself on Claude Code that have helped with a lot of the administrative work, it's not that my day is now shorter. It's that I'm doing the depth of research, the depth of preparation, the depth of insights that I need, that I've always wanted to do. Let's say leading up to a call that I have, like I want to spend and get all this information. Now I can set something up to do that for me. I'm still spending 20 minutes preparing for a meeting, but that 20 minutes is much richer. It's much more improved. And I'm not trying to figure out what parts of the rest of my day I can steal from, which is kind of what you were just describing, right? The current rule of a lot of SCs and has been for years is what meetings am I stealing from in order to run one or two other meetings in my day better? And as you're describing it, it's like, yes, an SC no longer having to steal from other meetings to do their jobs well. That's abundance, 100%.
Exactly. And I would qualify that. It's not a meeting. The actual word I've heard, or actual phrase I've heard, is that I don't want to sacrifice deal A to help with deal B.
That's absolutely correct.
Customer A with customer B or prospect A with so it's an and. It's not a mutually exclusive thing that, hey, I don't want to, if I help you on that marketing campaign, guess what? This deal that's important for making our number this quarter is going to suffer. So that's my hope for the SEO of the future. And when I say future, I'm talking next month. I'm not talking some distant future.
It's like right now. It's not future.
SEO of 2026. Yes.
We could obviously keep talking for hours. You mentioned it a couple times. You do run these kind of SE salons across like various cities, sort of sit down dinner conversations, different from what we do at Presales Collective, although very similar. We're not competing, I promise. They're definitely both good events to go to with a different focus. I need to make it to one of yours that I have not been to, but you do a lot of that. Is there anything that you've learned from those conversations with SEs that you're like, hey, here's the one takeaway that you should walk away with that you've learned from talking to all these SE leaders?
2 points that have really consistently been repeated in the last 6 to 12 months, I'd say. First is about, all these things have changed. Some of the things I mentioned in the beginning where the points about measurement and, activity was the bottleneck earlier. And that's what was measured for SEs. And that's what drove hiring plans. That's what drove comp plans. That's what drove, how the teams were structured. And guess what? Things that we defined as activity is changing. The products are changing, customers are changing, workflows are changing, buyer expectations are changing. The metrics and dashboards, and they're still somehow, even in some cases, they are sugar-coated, but somehow in the activity land as opposed to the outcome land. Still SE time allocated per one deal, closed one deal, or time per demo, dollars per demo, things like those, as opposed to impact, influence on ARR. Like there's so many other new metrics that can come up. So I think that's one that keeps coming back in these closed room conversations. Surprisingly, despite the awareness, not a lot of folks have done much about it yet. And despite their awareness as well as the desire to do something about it, it's just because it's so ingrained in their, it's very hard to change comp. It's very hard to change other things. That's one. The other one, and this is where, I'm putting my money where my mouth is there. A common theme we heard in all of these salons last year was proliferation of so many point tools, point solutions and such, where even within pre-sales itself, SE leaders used one tool for product tours, one tool for live demos, one for onboarding guides used by CSMs and learning teams, one tool for videos. When your stack often tells your story, so if your stack has 5 different things that are somewhat not connected, or they're connected at Salesforce, everything integrates into Salesforce or your CRM, and then it kind of comes back to each of the tools. I think it does lead to some incoherence in the story, both for the prospects as well as the team. I think what the prospects suffer from is incoherence, buyers suffer from is incoherence, and what the team suffers from is exhaustion. Keeping track of all the things, making things connected, managing different vendors and all of those. So consolidation is something that so many SE leaders, I'd probably say, it's been a common topic in about 80%. That's the reason why we acquired a company that focused on videos and how-to guides and such in Hexes. But I think those are the 2 themes that came up in the last about a year or so of salons. And then there are lots of friendly humans. I think the SE community, kudos to you as well, Jack and Matthew. SEs are just friendly overall across the board, and it's not common across many other professions. So just my personal realization coming into the industry has been that folks are genuinely friendly.
I would agree. And I feel so fortunate to be able to meet so many people in the community and just connect with people. And I can't say everyone is, because of course there's going to be some people who are not, but in general, we got a great group here. We really do. We got a great community of people. Kintan, I do want to say thank you so much. We are definitely out of time, but I appreciate you joining us, being on the show. And I look forward to connecting with you at some point, whether that's at one of our events or one of yours. I know you're going to be at SoulCon in August. So if you're listening to this and you're not signed up for SoulCon, all 3 of us are going to be there. So definitely sign up so you can come and chat with all of us.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Jack, Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Presales Podcast by Presales Collective. Did you know that we also post on the Presales Collective blog following each episode? Head there to read through information on shows you might have missed or find another past episode to listen to. For more information on the Presales Podcast itself and to listen to those past episodes, visit presalescollective.com/podcast.